What's up, guys? Welcome to Real Estate Ain't Easy. My name is Warren. I'm a mortgage lender.
My name is Adrian Ornelas. I am the broker or real estate agent of Agents of Las Vegas.
And we just want to break it down to you guys as far as what the outlook is like or what to expect when it comes to a real estate transaction here in the Vegas market. We want to think we're professionals at what we do, and we want to let you guys know, what's out there right now as far as what to expect, so that you don't go in there blind and you know what you're getting yourself into.
Awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to keep the theme of our next or our first episode. So technically today is episode number 2 of, and to keep the focus of the first time buyer. And I think the reason I thought I was like, this is actually pretty good because in reality, even if you're going to be looking into buying your second home, like it's not exactly like riding a bike. You basically become a first time buyer again because you need to get everything rolling and nobody really remembers the process. So then I think with this, we could bring, like you said, a lot of value to the processes and just the things that happen and also, a little bit of, I don't know, personality to the process of it without just, speaking like a robot
Yeah.
to the camera and just telling you, well, if you put down this much, then
Yeah.
you could.
No, and you're absolutely right, man. Because unless you are a flipper or investor, like transactions don't happen, you know, every month or every year or like maybe every year. It just depends. Sometimes I got some active duty service members that they have to keep moving. But you know, you mentioned first time home buyer, and real quick tidbit. If you own a house and you sell it, and then you rent for 3 years, because you've rented for 3 years, you're considered first time home buyer again, and therefore you're eligible for a lot of the programs that's available out there in the city that you can take advantage of. And a lot of people don't know that. Like, I get the conversations all the time. Like, oh, this isn't my first time buying. Like, oh no, like that's why I have to ask the question: how long have you been renting? Because that 3 year mark, that makes you a first time home buyer again. So, which is pretty cool.
What if I moved back into my parents' house and I didn't pay rent?
As long as your name isn't on the record as an owner of a property in the past 3 years,
First time buyer?
you're a first time buyer.
All right. All right. I just
So
wanted to ask. And then you mentioned the VA part of it, right?
yeah,
So I think, I think because honestly, I've never had really I'll say the pleasure of working with too many VA buyers. So in itself, it's a different field because they have a different lifestyle than most people. But that aspect right there, you said that they have to move often. How many properties could they actually own with that VA, or are they always selling the property and then buying the next one, or what do you see?
a majority of them sell the property and then buy the next one. A lot of people don't know you can technically have two VA loans on your personal certificate of eligibility at once. Your first one, obviously, no limits as far as how much you want to buy. No money down. The second one, depending on how much eligibility is left over on your certificate of eligibility, we have a calculation that will let us know how much you can buy again without having to put any money down. Um, you know, Not a lot of lenders know how to do it. I had to help a coworker the other day because they're just like, they don't work with VA loans, right? And a lot of it is alien to them. But yeah, if you're an active duty veteran or active duty or a veteran, you can technically have two VA loans at once.
Is there a
For
distance requirement from one property to another?
no,
It could be across town.
yeah, like you could. The only requirement is that the VA needs you to live in it for 1 year,
Got it.
right? And so if you're at Nellis and you PCS to Nellis Air Force Base, and your contract is for 5 years here, you do a VA loan on your initial purchase, live in it for a year. You want to move to a different side of town, depending on how much you have in eligibility, you can use a VA loan again.
Wow.
And I'll let you know how much you can buy without having to put money down. Sometimes people will put money down. It's like, oh no, I have like 10 grand this time. Like, and okay, if you put 10 grand down, this is how much you're able to buy. So it's a pretty cool program.
That is an awesome tool to have.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if I was in the military when I was young, I would have been using that a lot.
Oh my God! Like I tell
That
this
was
story a
not
lot
so.
too. With I wish the recruiter mentioned these benefits a lot more
Yeah.
than I don't know. Like I had a really messed up recruiter. Like this guy told me one thing, and then when I was looking into it, it wasn't. And so, like I was actually doing them some. I was in the reserves for like maybe 6 months. Like I was 18 in my junior year of high school.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was more because I was already 18 in junior year of high school. My senior year of high school, I did the entire year as a reservist. So I was doing that 1 week in a month thing, and rubbing elbows with guys who went through basic, and like, yo, the recruiter said I was supposed to be in a lab or something.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, the most chemicals you're gonna work with is 5% bleach. I'm like, what? But all the guys are cool though, and like I stuck it out through all of my senior year.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I read my contract. Yes, I swore in, but if I didn't finish basic training, that contract's null and void. And I like talked to the first sergeant, like, sorry, first sergeant, this is what I signed up to. He's like, just give me a resignation letter, and he's like, a heads up though, your recruiter will be mad. And yeah, lo and behold, that guy was camped out of my house.
Wow.
But hey, that it is what it is, man. And that's my experience, with recruiters.
Yeah.
But yeah, long story short, I wish he told me about the power of the VA loan. Like with what I do now, and with a lot of people who are able to work from home, a lot of remote people. If you were in the military and you did your service, 4 years, 6 years, and now you are a remote employee, 100% remote. You buy a house, live in it for 1 year, move to another city, live in it for 1 year, move to another city, live in it for 1 year. Like you can technically have multiple houses using a VA loan, depending on how much you're able to afford.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, once you live into that, let's say that first house, you live in it 1 year. Next, you want to buy $1 million house. Obviously, you want your eligibility opened up. So you convert that first one from a VA loan to a conventional loan, and you're renting it out. Now you're able to buy $1 million house with a VA loan. Like you could do that. No money down.
So when you said convert, is it a literal conversion, or are you refinancing?
It's a refinance.
Got it,
Yeah,
got it.
because you convert from a VA loan to a conventional loan. That frees up your eligibility.
Yeah.
Now it says, hey, I can buy. Our company helped the veteran buy in Louisiana. I believe it was like a $2.4 million house, no money down, which is crazy. I was like,
That's wild.
the power of the VA loan, man. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's good benefit. All right. Well,
totally got off track.
no. But I mean, that's a big factor, right? A lot of first-time buyers, realistically, are going to be VA buyers, right?
Yeah.
So if you are VA, and hopefully we can cut this into a short, give some good value to any, like you said, service members or veterans that could use it. In my experience, it's just people have questions, and I've come across the question that somebody that has been out of the military for a while and they really don't know the benefits of it. So,
another huge shocker for me that I learned. A lot of guys who were in this, let's say they got activated during Vietnam War. A lot of those guys, some of them are still under the impression that you had, I want to say up to, I could be totally wrong on this, like up to 6 years after you leave the service to, buy a house and use your VA loan. A lot of them are still under that impression. However, a law was changed. I'm trying to remember the year, but they are, if you were activated and you were active duty for, I want to say 6 months. Yeah, it's even 6 months now. You have access to a VA loan, and sometimes some veterans are out there that think they don't have access to a VA loan because they're still under the impression that, I could only use it within the first 6 years or something after leaving service. And like, no, that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like you did your service, you get a VA loan. Like no questions asked.
That is just part of it.
Yeah.
Well, there goes another tidbit. I'm sure we could keep going.
Bro,
I
yeah,
think we
there's so
probably
much,
have
man.
one,
Like,
the
there's
VA
so
just by
much
itself.
misinformation out there that, that's why we were doing this, and that's why we wanted to get that information out there, you guys. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, which direction you want to head next?
I don't know, stay with the first time home buyer thing, because what was that we were talking about? Was it the tribal land thing?
The what?
The tribal land thing?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a client that asked me about tribal land, and
Yeah.
honestly, I've never ever done one.
Yeah.
I know they exist, but also I think it's very not much a big part of the market. But
Mm.
nevertheless,
Yeah.
some people do.
Nah,
do
there,
use it.
we definitely have some natives here in the city. You know, there's literally, they have their own land. I believe it's the Paiute,
I think so.
Paiute tribe, like downtown. That's their land. On top of that, in Moapa, they have, that's their entire reservation. But there are programs for you to buy in, in those, communities where it's a little bit less. There's a lot less requirements. There's a term, I think it's HUD Home 184. In any case, instead of putting 3.5% down to buy a house, I believe with them it's like 2.5%.
Okay.
Just a little bit better to get you into a house. No minimum credit score requirements, and just definitely makes it easier to buy a house in those communities.
Okay.
So
I'll ask you here live the question I was going to ask you. The follow up with that, and is that a lot of the homes out in Moapa are manufactured homes.
Mm.
So new manufactured homes could be turned into real property.
Yep.
So the question was if I know, for example, there's some credit unions that do give you the ability to buy the land and then work in the manufactured home in it. Do you know if that HUD program allows for that?
So I'm not I don't have the specialty in that. I want to say that doing a construction to perm is the language that we say, when you buy the land and build on top of it.
Yeah.
I want to say yes, but I could be totally wrong on that. I want to let me get back to you.
Yeah.
That's definitely a question I'm not gonna throw out there and see if it sticks.
Okay. No, that's what I was saying. I was live.
Because construction and perm is a totally different thing from buying a pre-existing home. You can buy a pre-existing mobile home, and then in the transaction of buying it, we can help the people convert it to real property while you're doing the process of buying. So
Yeah.
it could be on wheels right now, but then we'll get an engineer to get it tied down and get the engineer search so that it is legit.
Just get the
and
permits
yeah.
for it, and then just
yeah.
have the bank verify it. So yeah, I mean, I heard once that process is there, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Because actually, I'm working to get a manufactured home put in on a lot.
Yeah,
I'm
that
gonna-
I
I'm
saw your
gonna-
stories, man.
I'm gonna be
I can't
selling
put
it.
two and two together. Like, oh, this is that thing he's building.
Yeah, this thing I've been working on for 3 years. So
Where was that at?
it's in Henderson. So
Okay.
it's right around Lake Mead Parkway, near Cadence. So you
Okay,
across the
okay.
street, and Cadence is right there. It's two
Benefit.
different worlds, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, and it's gonna be a brand new 4-bedroom, almost 1,600 square feet.
Dang.
And so
That's what
I
you're
have
building.
high
That.
hopes. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm building that. So whoever is the person that's going to be buying that, so it's already going to be real property.
Mhm.
So the most difficult thing in that situation is for somebody to be able to actually have the land already. So that
Mm.
means you have to actually own
Yeah.
or buy the land cash, which a lot of people just don't have, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, in this community right around there, the reason that I got the idea for it was because somebody, or I think the manufactured, did they had 2 lots there, and they did exactly what I'm doing.
On the manufacturer
Yeah,
of the
and,
homes.
Yeah, so they have like a satellite office or something. So I'm not sure exactly why or how that works, but anyways, so that was pretty much the mold. I was like, oh, okay, they could do it, and I noticed both of those actually are VA. So if I looked, who closed and how they closed, and
Yeah.
there were VA loans on a manufactured home, which a lot of veterans also, you have the $1 million person, but a lot of times their budgets are very limited as well too. And so anyway, so the price range on these, should be pretty decent. And somebody's actually going to own the land, doesn't have an association, so you could put your RV, your two,
Whatever you
three
want.
trucks, you
No
can do
rules,
whatever
right?
you want.
Yeah.
So that's
Just
really
don't piss off your neighbors, though.
well, generally, if you live in those neighborhoods,
You'll be mad at you'll be mad at your neighbors.
You might, yeah. But everybody kind of tends to think that way, and that's why you're kind of looking in that range, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so then, everything technically has to be cash, but whoever gets to buy it gets to finance it.
Yeah.
So if you're a first-time buyer and you're looking for something under the budget, you essentially just get a regular mortgage for that property. And you don't have to do everything that I had to do. That's basically the hard work, is actually
Done.
getting that done, so that somebody could just come in and put either no money down or very little money down, and have a brand new home.
So you had to purchase the land, or you already own the land?
I already own it.
Okay.
Well, no, but I had to purchase it.
Yeah.
I purchased it 3 years ago.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I mean, that's a hard part too, because like if you don't have the land, purchasing the land, I know in my experience we need 35% down just for the land.
Yep.
So sometimes here in the city, here in Vegas, you're not buying. A lot of people don't have 35% of, let's say, $250,000, $500,000.
Yeah.
Because it's in the city, and because you're in the city, whatever you build on that could be worth in millions right after that, because
Not only that, also too, right? But just for example, right? If somebody wanted to buy a lot anywhere, right? And for the most part, I'd say the cheapest you'll find in Las Vegas, and if that seller is willing to actually allow you to, go into financing for it, which is the difficult part, because most, people wanting to sell the land just don't want to deal with that much of it. Even though they should, I think, because then, it's going to be hard to offload it. I mean, when times are great and the market is moving fast, like just everything sells no matter what. But in this case, I mean, they potentially could put, like you said, 35% down on say it's $100,000 lot. That's not bad.
somewhat doable.
But then, the process that comes after that is that I don't think any of these manufacturers of these manufactured homes are going to take anything that way. So to finance it is going to be difficult for it if you already own it, and then to actually, go in again. And I'm not really sure exactly, what down payment they would need, et cetera. So that's why it's not so easy just to do that. It's possible, but there's a lot of things to go through.
It's hard because one of the biggest issues in people buying is the word affordability. Here in the city, the hospitality industry does not have enough income to be able to afford the homes. Medium home price here is like $480,000. That is about a mortgage of, let's just say, $3,000. If you only put 3.5% down or something, $3,000. That means you have to make at least $6,000 a month gross, assuming you have no debt. And people got debt. Like I don't know who doesn't have debt, but people got debt, and so therefore you're required to make a little bit more. And so again, back to the word affordability. It's just hard, right? And then you're seeing this, I don't want to say diaspora, but like people are here in Vegas now moving to Pahrump to find that affordability. Moving to, maybe Overton. Like I'm hearing Overton is a lot. People are considering that just because you get a lot more bang for the buck in a sense, right? But one thing that popped out for me was tiny homes, tiny home communities. Like I'm hearing the city come with that as an answer to affordability. Like, what do you think about that? Have you heard it? Have you ever sold a tiny home? Is that even possible?
No, I mean, from what one is the zoning of it, right? So the cities, for example, Henderson, I think, they allowed one, right? And that Boxable company is supposedly, they allowed for that, which, if you inquire with them, they have a waiting list. So realistically, it's kind of, to me, is just a bunch of smoke and mirrors just to,
increase the stock price.
Well, yeah, that as well too, right? Because that's how they benefit, right? It's exposure for them. But for the city, it just makes the city look like they're doing good. So potentially, right? But if you read on it, supposedly they're going to be around 300,000, right? So
300,000
that's yeah.
for a
That's
tiny
what
home?
yeah. So I mean, if you read the comments and some of those things, like people are just
What?
grilling it because I mean that's kind of what they're aiming for.
There's no way. That's not gonna answer the
Realistically,
affordability.
so realistically, to be able to build something like that,
Yeah.
it's difficult to build a regular stake home
Yeah.
on and then come and have all the employees be there constantly working and making it happen.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do. I mean, the material in itself is probably not right, but then getting the permits and all that stuff. And so, in theory, the tiny home sounds good.
Look, yeah.
But I mean, like there's a story of a couple years ago over here in the big lots, over here in the 89139, right around Dean Martin and Decatur and Blue Diamond.
Okay.
Those huge lots, right? So
Yeah.
this person had a
Horse
very
properties. Yeah.
big lot, and they actually put a tiny home on their backyard,
Yeah.
and then there were Airbnb in it.
Yeah.
So either somebody told on them or however that happened, but they were forced to remove that tiny home from their property because it wasn't permitted, and it's not the
Oh.
zoning of it, right? So then
Yeah.
technically the zoning of it, it could only the square footage of that tiny home
Could be a certain.
could only so and it's in
so much.
a detached dwelling unit, right?
Yeah.
And so then as long as you follow it, it's possible, but then you have certain requirements that you need to fit. And so, before you do any of that, you
Do your
definitely
research,
want to
do your homework.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and as far as, the tiny home aspect of it goes, right? Like how many people really want to live like that? And then I wonder in those communities, like how big is backyard, who's going to
Well-
be your neighbors, that type of thing.
The thing that when I say we, I'm talking about like Las Vegas, right? I came here in '93. I've been here ever since, and me in this real estate industry, I'm seeing that what's happening in California is slowly coming over here.
Yep.
I'm currently helping clients right now. They have like, I want to say at least 4 properties in California. They have an ADU in their own backyard.
Yeah.
California allows it. They rent it out, right? And they're earning income from that rental. I mean, the renters pretty much pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
And they have 4 other properties, and they're renting that out too. But what I see or what I saw is that that's how they're addressing the affordability crisis
Yeah.
in the California, is allowing buildings in one lot, multiple buildings, and using that as a way to get people into homes and get them living. Like,
Yeah.
I remember I had another client, I think this was in San Diego, but one lot had 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And each building was rented out. And, that house has been owned free and clear since the 80s. And so now they're just like,
Just cash flow.
yeah, it's
Well, I mean, that's the ideal thing, right? So
Yeah.
then I think one of the things that, over the years, you always hear that, right? That Las Vegas is going to become like LA,
California,
like
yeah.
California. But I think in itself, the market is just kind of like, and then the summer rolls around, like, wait a minute. Like however much you want to, I think for the most part, right? So again, it goes back into also, how feasible that is, right? To do. And so, we still have, or we, at least in the last 10 years, there's still a lot of land to build on. And the reality is that if you're coming from any other state, and you've always lived in an apartment, you really don't want to go and live in an ADU, right? So
Yeah.
people come here to live the dream that they couldn't anywhere else, and to make that possible. And it really is to actually have, so that's why, I don't think we're there yet. I think there's a moment, like in 22 where it definitely felt like that's the direction things were
Yeah.
headed, because the market was so busy and it was just so hyper busy that it looked like we were going to be there in no time, and rents were skyrocketing. I mean, rents right now are either flat or
Coming
lower
down,
than they
yeah.
were. So, and it's just supply and demand. So
Yeah.
they build a lot of apartments.
Yep. Yep.
And so, it's the market. It's kind of like leveled itself out that way, and
It
so
moves. Yeah. It constantly
then,
changes.
I mean, I know there's some communities here that definitely are okay with that, and they definitely do build I mean, I've seen some people have garage conversions, and for a little while, like in the early 2000s, even to like 2010, like how many people had to convert back their garage from some like room that they just kind of created out of that wasn't done with permits or anything
Yeah.
back into a garage that here we need
Yeah.
because it's so hot, right?
I'm hearing HOAs are saying, hey, if you have stuff in your garage, take it out because you got to have a car in there because there's so many people. I think it's because one house is housing 4 people with cars, and those 4 people with cars, they all have stuff, so they're using the garage as a a storage bin.
Yeah.
And because they're utilizing the parking space around the neighborhood, HOAs are complaining, and so they're forcing people to take pictures of their garage so that it's empty or cleaned out,
Yeah.
so that a car can be put in. Like it
Well,
blows my mind, man.
Well, again, it goes back to I don't know if you ever gone to California and visited somebody, but sometimes you can't even like find parking on the street, right? Because it's so the density of it, right? So again, people leave those places to, and so then when you go to a neighborhood and no offense, but sometimes in Mountain's Edge, those homes were built like super tight.
Yeah.
And you get to the neighborhood, there's no parking because everybody, and so the density of it picks up because maybe you have definitely more people that were more than what it was planned for that community. So then these HOAs, if somebody takes it upon to actually force whatever rules they may have, it's to try to kind of clear that up. I mean, going back again to our 2009, 2010, 2011 times, like those communities, I mean, man, you go to those, like there was no parking, like you had to park and go kind of far because there was 4 or 5 couples living in one in one house. And the reason that was because I mean honestly we probably didn't really have that many apartments in those days. And so now that's not exactly the issue now, but that part of it right there is just density of the communities trying to maintain its value. Because I mean, I'll tell you, when I go into, like, I just had a client go look at a very, very pretty house, but we get to the neighborhood and you feel how dense it is.
Yeah. No, and you can see that, like, sometimes HOAs are a culture shock for people, and you got to adjust with it, right? But at the end of the day, I think HOAs are trying to protect the homeowner and protect the values of the neighborhood.
It serves a purpose.
Yeah.
One of the things that people ask that it's a reality, why all these neighborhoods have HOAs, right? And I mean it's permanent. So unless you go into $1 million home or plus, then they might not have HOAs, because then they figured these multi-million-dollar home people could definitely
afford the landscaping
and take care of it themselves and not have to deal with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But everybody else, so the city doesn't want to police what happens in these neighborhoods, because otherwise it would be up to them to monitor that, right? So then and then take care of the streets, all that stuff. So then the HOAs, realistically, it's because the city wants that off of their hands, so that there's kind of self-sustainable in that sense. So the city doesn't have to come in and spend that money for it, and that's realistically the why they exist.
No, like, so keep that in mind when you're looking for a house, you guys. Like, the HOAs are out there. New builds, no matter what new build, you're gonna get into an HOA, and so you gotta learn the rules right away so that you don't get those fines. Like, I got fined the other day for having weeds on the side of my yard. Like, I don't ever. It's where my AC is at. Like, I don't go looking, but hey, the HOA took a picture and said, hey, you got weeds on the side of your yard. Like, that's where my HOA. No one goes there, but the HOA did, just because they're walking the neighborhood and taking pictures. And they could like, hey, it's $100 fine if you don't take care of it around this time. And like, I could do a lot with $100, so I'm definitely not giving it to HOA. So.
And I mean, and realistically, I guess again, that's in itself, it's its own subject.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if the HOA didn't exist and they didn't do silly things like that, where they monitor and they send out the letters, there's a lot of money made from the management companies of these HOAs because they're realistically who are the paper pushers of it.
Yeah, they're supposed to be nonprofit, but man, they
Oh, no, I
oh
mean,
they
you're not a nonprofit if there's fees,
oh
that
yeah
get ciphered somewhere else,
yeah
and there's I guess employment being paid of
yeah
it, which is part of it. But again, that's a whole other subject also too. But they have to do something because if they don't do anything, then I mean, the neighborhood just kind of goes to
goes
crap.
yeah
So unfortunately, if they don't do it to you, that means they're not going to be doing it to somebody else, and et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. And eventually, it'll come back to haunt just about everybody.
yeah
So,
yeah
but I get upset too, man. But I hate spending the stamp to send back that notice. I got one for my mother's house. They left the trash can out.
too long.
The trash is Monday, and the trash can was out in front of the gate all the way to the back. With some of the leaves of the tree kind of hiding it there. And I see on the picture of the thing, just I could see the hand going like this. I'm like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, I've gotten that before too, man.
So, but and honestly, it's irritating. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, as long as they're making sure everybody else is maintaining it, then it's just keeping the community,
Up to par with everybody else.
yeah, and honestly, it does really help values. Like it would just be chaos if it didn't. It becomes, I
Wild,
guess
Wild West.
California real fast.
Yeah.
If, no offense, but like a bunch of things like that. So it really protects it from having crazy stuff like that happen.
Yeah.
And you could always tell, like if you go to a certain part of the city, or any city here in town, and you'll be able to see really fast who has an HOA and who doesn't.
Yeah.
So
when you're buying a house and you're buying in a neighborhood and the neighborhood looks really pretty and they don't have cars in their yards on blocks, it probably has an HOA. But on the flip side, if you see a car on blocks in their yard and the grass is dead,
probably no HOA.
yeah, probably no
That's
HOA.
a
So
good indicator. But one of the things, right? So first time buyers, and people always have this question. So we're looking, right, and we just can't find anything because the first criteria is no HOA, right? Like everybody starts with that. No HOA. I'm like, okay, well, I'll start it, and then take a look at it and see what happens, right? So then they start sending me all these listings out of the
zone
of the
criteria.
things that I send them. I'm like, hey, you send me this one, but it has an HOA. And then again, right, like you sent me this one, but it has an. So then eventually we go into HOAs because there's just the inventory here. That's what it is.
Quick side note.
Yeah.
How long is that process of like when they start realizing that, oh man, I can't escape
The HOA world?
Yeah. Like how long does it usually click in their mind that like
It depends on every person. I mean, there's I guess then it goes into the budget aspect of it, right? Because then there's people that if you lived here for a while, you know, you know what neighborhoods are what, and where you're okay
where you
with
want to be
living,
at,
right?
yeah.
And so a lot of times, you might have your taste says 600,000, but your budget says I don't know 450 something else, right? And so then eventually what happens is that you have two aspects of it. They're like, okay, well, I want to stay in my budget, and I understand that there's not, but sometimes it does take them 2-3 weeks to kind of realize that.
Yeah.
I give my buyers the time to really acknowledge that themselves because honestly, I can't convince people of much, and so I can't be like, hey, if you keep doing that, we're gonna keep running into the same thing. Like, let them feel it. We'll go through that process, and then they actually get to experience, what it is to have one or not. But something that happens is that as we're going through those, I tell them, look, the lower the HOA fee, because everybody could see that, the least strict it's going to be. And for the most part, they're just maintaining, simple things of the association. So then it just keeps it there, and it's a low HOA fee, so they're probably not going to bug you that much, right? Like unless you're trying to build something on top of your home already, and create this thing out of it. Like if you want to have your mechanic shop in your home and that type of stuff, and some people do, and that does affect it. And so then, but if you're just a regular person, you have your job, you like to have parties, every 3 months, every 6 months or something. Nothing. There's no difference between the no HOA and the $15 HOA or the 30 or the 50. Now, if you go into the 150s and 200s, I mean, you probably have a Terminator going around the neighborhood, making sure that everything's taken
That
care
might
of.
happen one day, man. Yeah, I got security driving around, but I see it's a security person and it's a person driving the car, but I'm seeing like I was at the airport the other day and there's robot wheelchairs. Like how people
call those guys that would get pushed. Push the wheelchairs. Yeah.
Those guys are about to get eliminated because there's AI wheelchairs that are self-driving now, and they'll take you from whatever gate you want to another gate.
Yeah.
And it's all driven by AI. And I'm thinking those security that's patrolling the HOAs.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like some robot on a Segway, all solar powered and everything, always circling, and that's gonna be crazy.
People give the robot less of a hard time than the real person.
Yeah,
because that's unfortunate in so many ways, but yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that.
It is what it is, but man, that's great. I didn't even plan on talking about HOAs, but hey, this is
I mean, it's part of the first time buyer process,
Yeah,
and I think realistically, to have a really structured conversation is difficult because there's just so many ways that all this could lead into
to so many things.
So whenever you're watching this, just know that we're gonna hit some aspect of you being interested in buying a home, or even if you already own a home, all this information will be super valuable for whatever situation you are thinking of, or somebody that of has thought about. We're gonna talk about it here, and there'll be something about it.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot when it comes to real estate, man, and that's why these conversations flow.
Yeah.
What else were we talking about?
The affordability part. So something that we talked about last time, right? You mentioned how we both in 2009 were making $12 an hour, right? and the affordability of it. And so I was thinking about that particular number in today's numbers, right?
Yeah.
So obviously that's a long time ago now. It's gonna be heading into 20 years. And so man, yeah. So that's 26 years. 16 years since that. So, we all know what happened to inflation. We know what happened to rents. I mean, rents, realistically, back in those days, you could get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home for maybe $700, $800.
$100,000. Yeah.
Something like that, right? Under $1,000. Today, that has to be, that 1,000 is 2,000.
Yep.
And so, I really don't, ask people like, hey, how much do you make, right? But realistically, for somebody to equal that scenario, you would need to be making $24 an hour. And, I'm sure you've done some prequels. For somebody who makes $24 an hour, you can't afford much.
Yeah, no,
like
it's
you,
straight,
you
like
can't qualify for a loan.
Yeah, it's not enough. And unfortunately, here in the city, that is the going rate for a lot of the people, just starting out in the service industry or working in the hotels or whatnot. On top of that, like, there's a lot of bartenders and cocktail people, and those jobs are minimum wage. They are not. They don't have what we call like guaranteed income. Like it's tip income. Like I know dealers and cocktail waitresses making 6 figures.
Yeah,
all on cash, not on paper, right? And that makes it a little bit harder to
qualify.
To qualify. The downside is your income did not move as fast as inflation, and I never understood that concept when I was 25 when I first bought my house. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's gonna catch up. Like, I'm 40 now, bro, and I see like, man, $12 an hour got me this.
Yeah.
And $12 an hour now. My sister makes way more than that. She just started her job. I'm like, man, I was so jealous when she told me how much she was making. I'm like, man, I wasn't making that when I was your age. Like,
can I ask how much she's making?
Who, my sister now? Oh, she just graduated college, and so it's like I think I think it's 18, but to her, $18 an hour is nothing.
Well, no, but like if you think about that concept, right?
Yeah, it's
And so that's the one of the things that I think we're in this. I hate using this, but we're in this era
Yeah.
of time where the concept of what money was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
is totally obsolete to what money is today.
Yeah.
But because we're so used to
What it was back then, yeah.
and what we struggled with and all that,
Yeah.
our understanding of it is not the same. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like if you really look at the figures, like how we're talking now, 12 versus 18 after graduating college, it's not a lot.
It's not.
And if you really think about it in the big concept of it, it's not even close to what you were making, $12 an hour.
Yeah.
That means it's less.
Yes. And I'm disheartened by that because the perspective is hard to grasp for me.
Well, for a lot of people, and that's why we'll come back to this, and then let me get off of it. But that's why a lot of people still don't want to buy or are afraid to buy, because the idea that they paid $1,000 for rent and that now to buy a house is going to cost 3 times that.
Yeah.
It's not something that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, it's hard pill to swallow.
And they just don't realize that that's the new world. And it's because exactly the same thing that we're talking about, right? Like in our mind, $12 was this much,
is how much
and
it's
it
supposed
got
to be
us
worth.
this much.
Yeah.
And then that money just doesn't function the same.
Yeah.
So at least here in Las Vegas, that concept for a lot of people is hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
And I mean, you put me in that bucket as well too, because I just can't see myself buying a new car exactly because of that.
That's exactly what I was talking about, man. Because
we touched on it a
I
little
was
bit
thinking
on this,
about,
yeah.
like, I drive a 2006 Toyota Tacoma. It has 285,000 miles. Do I want a new car? Yes. Do I want to pay for a new car? No. Because to get a new version of my truck, it's double what I paid, and I do not want to pay double for a piece of machinery that'll get me from point A to point B the same amount of time, right? And I'll probably have that car until it's a million miles, and
exactly because of that, like that's why I can't totally hate when I have somebody that has a very nice house. It's only, I don't know, 1,800 square feet, 1,700 square feet, right? But the family grew, and I can't hate on the fact that they want a $700,000 house, but the idea of what that payment entails, even though they already have a very comfortable a property and they could rent it and etc., it still doesn't calculate very much. Even though, say, in the time when they would have bought that house, that $700,000 house might have been 400, right?
Yeah.
And so then that seemed like a gigantic number back then, but
Yeah.
But now their home that they have is worth about 450. Then that aspect of that is like, well, you did double or triple whatever you paid for it.
Yeah.
So it's not the same world. But that concept of it is, I think it's gonna take a long time to get adjusted to it, and we have to be like out of that time
Mindset,
zone to actually be like, oh, okay, well, this is what it is now. But the other thing I keep going about that, but the comparisons that I always give everybody, I was like, look, we're in a time where, like, when old people used to tell you, it's like, I used to pay 25 cents for a Coca-Cola.
That's
like,
us now.
that is us.
Yeah.
That it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Now, I guess the idea of it, or the reality of it, is like, how sustainable is that going to be? And when I say sustainable, over the course of the past 100 years, that way that money works has continued the same pattern that we are in now.
Yeah.
So the probability, I think, is very high that that's where it's headed, but it's hard to make sense of it until something gives. But who knows?
Yeah. No. I want to say that you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You have to. I've learned a lot over the years that you don't grow unless you're uncomfortable, right?
Yep.
Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation so that your growth can happen. If you are staying where you are comfortable, that growth doesn't happen as much. I want to say that part of the reason another house for me was that it was to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I wanted to be uncomfortable with the payment, and when I'm uncomfortable, I work harder,
Yeah.
right? And that hustle, that work ethic, kind of will pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
And to me, that was my mindset in getting the next house. In these past couple of years.
Yeah.
Because here in Vegas, I know prices won't go down. Like not significantly like what we saw from 2007 to 2009, right? And there's still a lot of people that is counting on that. And please
Yeah,
stop.
that's like it's like
Please
the
stop.
it's like the 10% of the population that hangs on to that for one because they wish that could happen, right?
Yeah.
To take advantage of it, and then the second part of it is because I mean I'll give you an excellent comparison, right? Last week, I think last week or maybe the week before that, there was a UFC fight, and I've only ever made bets on that. Maybe this would have been my third time, but I didn't, and I so I just look at the the week thing that they do prior to that,
Yeah.
and I always just look for little clues of how that fighter is looking to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's like he's the complete underdog, but the other guy, something's off about him. And then the other guy, to me, I just like it was a kind of a given just because of the skills. But I was like, I'm gonna place a bet. So I was like, you know what, $200 is not gonna do much. And I was gonna, cause I don't keep that app because I'm afraid to have that app. But I was gonna give my wife or my brother the money to do it so they could place it for me. And that parlay of just those two fights with the $200 would have given me I think about $3,000.
How's that segue into the?
So the segment to that is that those people wish that they could have bought a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they're gonna keep wishing because I'm still really upset that I did not place that bet because that would have been some really nice money to go and just play around with, right?
Yeah.
And because I thought, right?
Yeah.
And so
you saw the wave,
Mhm.
and you're like, nah, I'll wait on the next wave, and you
just always wish that it would be
yeah,
something
you're
else.
just still waiting in the water for that next wave, but that wave's not gonna come, man.
Well, to touch that subject, something that we lived that market and I lived it because I got to see it. And there's people that took advantage of it and massive corporations that bought it, and there were signals of things, and obviously like way other more different subjects to speak about. But in particular, why that happened here is because obviously that anybody with a pulse could buy 3-4 houses and have all those loans.
it was because of people in my job. That really was the source
But
behind
it was
everything.
but it was a system.
Oh
It
yeah,
was a
no,
system.
there's
So,
at
I mean,
least three
individually,
parties involved: the lender, the realtor, and the appraiser.
Yeah, but the government also. So to allow those, and then the banks in itself. But here's the big thing of that, because I know locally everybody sinned during those days because it was part of what was being allowed because of realistically, I mean the banks. Everything goes back to the banks, right? The bank would allow whatever loans to go out. So then obviously they have to be responsible for the ones that go back in. And so, but what happened is that the inventory, and because I remember this, I had the license 2006. The values were still very high. And right around when I got my license, the market definitely softened because we would put in an offer and it would get accepted very easily without any much fighting back to it.
Yeah.
And so that's typically, like that's how sometimes the floors is stopping because it just is you're like, well, that was kind of easy, it's like so that was something that came to mind.
Little cues.
And then so then all that happened and the loans were still being produced the same way, or they had already been produced and people refinance all that stuff. So the banks had all these loans that later on there's movies about it of how bad the loans were, etc. But what happened was that so in 2007 when they started getting all those foreclosures and they had to start foreclosing all these homes, so the banks had the majority of the inventory, right? So then when it was the example that I gave you last time with the condos and the townhomes, they have the majority of the inventory, and so whoever has the majority of the inventory, if you're the bank, you're like, well, I have this foreclosure's coming up, that one's coming up, that one's coming up, and nothing's happening because then in 2007 I was trying to buy a house myself, and the values had decreased a little bit, but not that much. Actually, 2008 I was trying to buy, and I couldn't because I hadn't been that long at my job, and so then
2 years.
the values in that summer, I remember the house that I was trying to buy, and it was I think around 270
Yeah.
by
later.
by February, March of 2009, that value had gone down to maybe about I don't know, 100, maybe 90,000. So how does it go that quickly, right? Is because whoever has inventory just floods the market with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So all these banks had it, and so then if you're a regular person, you're like, oh, well, I'd never refinance a house and I want to sell, for 300,000, and the bank has 5 properties on your block, and the bank's, just kills the price of it,
Values, yeah.
what's going to happen to the values, right?
Yeah.
Now, multiply that nationwide, and all these banks were just trying to move their inventory.
Yeah.
So
No, they want their money back.
So, well, no, I mean, they're just they didn't even know what to do with it because they have so much of it that they are just trying to do whatever they can
Yeah.
because the loan is done. Nobody, is going to answer. That person's gone. They have, the banks knew what kind of loans they had. And so then it was just a flood of it. So when people are like, oh, we're going to have another 2008, all that stuff, like, so you're telling me that the majority of the inventory is owned by a person just like me and you, and you think that that person is just going to tap out and say, you know what, I'm just going to sell my house at a $200,000 loss. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
A homeowner with a $1,500 mortgage, with a $2,000 mortgage, would rather stay in their home than have to go rent something. And the reality of how that worked is not the same to be able to do it. Is there, certain aspects that could reduce prices? There will be, but not to that extent where people fantasize.
Yeah.
And one of my things that I've always said on my videos is like, if you're wishing for the market to go down, you're wishing for your cousin, your sister, or somebody else to be in a really bad situation financially, and
So that you
to
can
just
capitalize
create
on
it so that you could take advantage of it. So don't wish that, or don't think that could happen, but just prepare yourself to actually face whatever there's opportunities, because there is opportunities.
Yeah.
There's opportunities that if there is one short sale a year on your block, go for that one.
Yeah. No, and I think about that with, I want to say, what would it take for that to happen again, right? And what comes to mind for me was Detroit, like
Yeah.
when all the car manufacturers kind of left the town, and the town was employment was dependent on the car manufacturers. When those car manufacturers left,
It's systematic.
yeah, like, so people don't have jobs, people leave their houses, and you have huge houses in the city of Detroit that are literally ransacked and it's empty. And mind you, these are like 3,000 square foot homes, they're huge lots, but worth $50,000 probably because no one wants it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're in Vegas. Obviously, we don't have a Detroit, no factories. What would that take? And it would take the hotels to leave the city. It would take it, and why would the hotels leave the city? Maybe laws change on gambling, and that's not gonna happen. Like, our city is dependent on the tourism industry, and it's gonna pass legislation to make it thrive so that economy keeps working, right? So again, back to the argument, like, oh, it's gonna happen again. Not in Vegas. Like, we set up systems so that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. I think Las Vegas is sensitive to the economy of the whole entire nation, and of the world realistically, right? So I think it's sensitive, but again, it goes back to that of how bad it would get. So I mean, to be frank, the market in itself, and I told people late 2022, because I couldn't tell anybody, yeah, you should buy right now, when the rates went from 3% to 7% within 6 months. I mean, that's a big indicator of what to watch out for, right? And something that nobody has control of it because it's systematic. But in the next years after that, I was like, look, if you're looking to buy, just don't expect for your home to go up in value the next 3 to 5 years, because We've never seen this before, and there's gonna be things that happen, and there's gonna be flows, of good and bad.
Yep.
And so then the city is sensitive to the casinos being busy, but is it in but is it in danger? It's not.
No.
So that's the really aspect of it, right? So
Yeah.
and if ultimately, right, like as a first time buyer, you're buying because you want to be comfortable in your home. You want to know that you own it. You're not trying to get rich of the house. You just want somewhere where you could come home and you don't have to wonder if you could hang a frame on your house, or if you could I don't know, bring in a car into your yard or whatever, I don't know, the backyard, something like that, right? Like you just want to have more control of it. And realistically, that's the premium that anybody's paying now, is that you just want to feel like you own the house. Could we all go rent for $800 less a month? Yeah. But then you'll never get to feel the aspects of it. And there's some people that are just will always rent just because they're just, some people don't want
Mindset, bro.
responsibility.
Yeah, mindset.
And
like,
so and I don't blame them, but it's just a different life
Yeah.
choice, lifestyle. And for me, I did property management for a couple years, and me having to give people notices and go and deal with the move outs and all that stuff, I just told myself, I was like, I don't think I could ever rent. Like I just don't like it. I feel like I can't have somebody be the one that tells me what I want to do.
Yeah. No, and the hard part is like sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? And if your parents and your grandparents, all they were doing was renting,
Yep.
you don't know how to own. Sometimes people are afraid to take that next step and branch out and own, right? And sometimes that's partly why we're here. We want you to branch out and make homeownership possible for yourself, because it's not that hard.
Yeah.
All it really takes is the mindset to be like, I could do that. I don't have the money though. Like, well, there's down payment assistance. I don't have the credit. We can fix your credit in about 6 months. There's a whole bunch of reasons that people put themselves in that think they can't buy a house, but then that's what we're here. Like, we want to give you the perspective that you can buy a house, whether it's your first time, second time, 50th time. There's a lot of programs out there to be able to, so that you can buy a house. We're giving you the real deal behind it, and so that you know what you're getting yourself into. But owning a house definitely creates that financial security for the next 30 years, so that you know what your costs are, and it makes control of that a lot easier. And therefore, when you have control of your finances, it makes things easier to do a bunch of other stuff. Like maybe now that you know how much your housing will be, now you can concentrate on work. When you're concentrating on work, you do better, and maybe you can get a higher raise, or eventually your income increases. And now 5 years down the road, you're making twice as much. Now you're thinking of real estate as some investment vehicle. And there's power to real estate, you guys, and we'll eventually touch on that on this channel.
Yeah. It's it's the power of the ownership, right? Like it's just different, but you have to live it to kind of understand it. But in that part of it where we mentioned, there's people that have been renting their entire life, and that their families really have rented always. And everybody always imagines like I don't know, maybe people don't think about it too much, but there really is. And there's people that are just trying to improve that. So if you know somebody that's looking to buy their first home, don't hate on them. I mean, it's their first home, so they don't know anybody, and they're just trying to improve to what they feel they need to. So I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Once again, thanks for joining us, you guys. My name is Warren. I'm a mortgage lender. You can find me at the Cabasa on Instagram.
And my name is Adrian Ornelas. I am the broker of Agents of Las Vegas. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode for just more conversations about first-time buyers and very bunch of different subjects regarding it. And it's going to be entertaining. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
See you on the next one.